Wife cheated with my best friend on a trip while I was injured at home. They sent videos. I confronted her, had a revenge affair, then we divorced. It's been 4 years now, to the month. At the time, I was 36, and Chrissy, my wife, was 35. We had been together for 15 years, married for 12. Our life was comfortable, we lived in a nice home, upper middle class, and had a 14-year-old daughter. I had two close friends, Eric and Mike, both of whom I met in college. Eric was married to Emily, and Mike had recently divorced his wife that spring. Through us, Chrissy and Emily became good friends, and we all formed a close-knit group of 3 couples. We had a tradition of taking week-long vacations every summer. Everything was set for our next trip when I broke my ankle just 3 days before we were supposed to leave. Because of this, I decided not to go. I was non-weight-bearing for 16 weeks, my medication made me extremely sleepy, and I didn't want to be a burden on everyone else's fun. Chrissy offered to stay home with me, but I insisted she go without me. So, because of my injury, the trip ended up being just Chrissy, Eric, Emily, and Mike. The turning point came on December 7, 2019. Chrissy and Emily had planned a girls' shopping trip a couple of hours away, with an overnight stay at a hotel. They got caught because of the Snapchat map feature. That night, after sending Chrissy a picture of our dog, I checked the map and saw that Mike was in the same location as her. There was no reason for Mike to be there. Instantly, I felt sick and started bombarding my wife with texts and calls, but she ignored them completely. Since I knew Emily was with her too, I called Eric to ask where Emily was. I told him what I had found and that I was heading over to confront them. I asked if Emily had gone on the trip. He answered in a sad tone, saying yes, Chrissy had picked her up that morning, and he knew Mike would be there. For a second, I thought maybe it was just Mike and Emily having an affair, and Chrissy was just a cover for them. But then Eric dropped the bomb, they're having a threesome. I was frozen for a moment. Eric went on, saying, I'm sorry, it's not the first time she's been with Mike, and I've been with her too. The numbness I felt quickly turned to pure rage. I got dressed, threatened Eric, and hung up. I completely lost control. I broke a few things, yelled, and cursed everyone out. My daughter came out, clearly scared and worried. She had never seen me like that, and I was walking with a limp, since I had just recently been cleared to walk after the injury. When I saw her, I pulled it together, reassured her, apologized, and told her everything was fine and I was just upset about a work issue. She probably knew I was lying, but she didn't say anything. Once she went back to her room, I retreated to mine and called Eric. He picked up right away, and I told him he better tell me everything. It all started back in July during their vacation. It was a 5-day trip, with travel days on each side. The first day was a simple, relaxed day spent around the pool at the Airbnb. It was day 2 when things started to take a turn. I knew that they were planning a full day out without their spouses. Mike and Chrissy ended up naturally pairing off. They were both single, while the rest of us were married. At first, it seemed innocent enough, just friendly. But as the day went on, they seemed to get more comfortable with each other. That night, they all drank heavily during dinner back at the house. The drinking kept going after the meal. Emily noticed how flirtatious and close Chrissy and Mike were getting. Eventually, she and Eric went to their room, leaving Mike and Chrissy alone. After a while, Emily decided to sneak out and see what they were up to. She went to Chrissy's room but found it empty. She then snuck up to Mike's room and heard the unmistakable sounds of 2 drunk people having sex, trying to keep quiet. Emily went back to the room and told Eric what she had found. I interrupted him and said, how could she just let this happen? You said she noticed how close they were getting during dinner, why didn't she pull Chrissy aside and stop it? This is when the story turned from bad to a complete disaster. Apparently, Eric and Emily had been dealing with marital problems for a while, including issues in their bedroom. Emily had been asking for an open relationship for about 6 months at that point. Eric finally gave in, but only on the condition they try swinging first. They had planned to ask Chrissy and me to join them in the lifestyle on this trip, but when I broke my ankle and stayed home, they figured the whole idea was off the table. But when Chrissy and Mike had their drunken night together, Emily thought maybe the swinging idea could still happen. The next morning, Emily talked to Chrissy. Chrissy, as expected, felt guilty and worried about being found out, especially with all the witnesses. She admitted it was a huge mistake, but also that it felt really good, especially for drunk sex. Emily said, "Why stop? He just got divorced. You've been stressed because of work for a year. We're on vacation, and you left everything behind, your job, your responsibilities, everything. Consider it a free week. Eric and I won't say anything, and we'll cover for you if anything comes up." Eric told me that Chrissy seemed to like the idea but had some hesitation. She went to talk to Mike, and then Mike came to Eric, asking if they were serious about letting it happen. Eric said yes, he had been coached by Emily on how to handle it. He was told to just get it over with. Over the next few days, they stuck to the original plan for the trip. I know this because all the expected social media posts went up. I kept getting included in the group chat from everyone, and Chrissy called me twice a day to check in. I had no clue what was going on while I was recovering at home. Update 2: Chrissy went completely silent from the moment I called her in a panic until she walked through the door at 7 p.m. that Sunday. She looked terrified. She knew I knew everything. Eric had left a voicemail for Emily, telling her that he had given me everything, told me everything, and that he wouldn't be there when she came home. She was supposed to sign the divorce papers that were waiting for her on the kitchen table. I told Chrissy to pull herself together. Cora came out a little later, and for the next couple of hours, we tried to act like everything was normal. Once Cora went to bed, I asked Chrissy what she wanted. She immediately broke down in tears and tried to hug me. I blocked her attempt and told her to stop with the apologies. She started begging me to forgive her, but I made it clear that wasn't going to happen. I told her we had a lot to talk about, and I wanted honest answers. If I sensed she was lying, I would end the conversation right there and file for divorce first thing Monday. I had more than enough evidence to make sure she wouldn't be getting anything from me. We didn't live in a no-fault divorce state, so I was prepared. Then, I pointed out that she hadn't answered my question. I asked her what she wanted. She said she wanted to show me how sorry she was. She wanted to work on earning my forgiveness and hoped we could work through this. I told her I didn't think it was possible, but I was willing to let her explain herself. I asked why she cheated in the first place. She said she had fun that day, felt relaxed and good, and hadn't felt that way in a long time. Work had been stressing her out, and when she got to the trip, she let her guard down. The drinks took over, and she just went with the flow. She tried to explain how bad she felt afterward, but I cut her off. I needed to know why she kept doing it. She gave me an honest answer. She wanted to, and she could. She admitted Emily got into her head a little, but also that she justified it by telling herself she had already cheated once, so what was the difference now? Then Chrissy started describing what happened that night, and that was tough to hear. She described it as a when in Rome situation. Some of what happened that night was stuff she hadn't done with me in years. I asked if she was unhappy in our relationship, and she said no. She said we had a good marriage, she just wanted to feel wild, wanted to feel excited again. Things had become monotonous, and this experience had been thrilling for her. Her plan was to do something like this with me, but when I didn't go on the trip, she thought it was over. Once the opportunity presented itself, she let herself be swept up in it. I then asked about the swapping. She said that was a huge mistake. Emily had talked to her about it on the last full day of the trip, and she was trying to get Chrissy on board with it. Chrissy thought the threesome idea was even better than what we had planned. Emily said, "It's perfect because you aren't giving up Chuck, just Mike for one night." Emily had complained about the lack of intimacy with Eric and said this was her way of getting what she needed. I asked Chrissy about the threesome. I wanted to know why she had agreed to it. Chrissy said she never planned to cross that line again and swore she would make it right in our relationship. This explained the weeks of love bombing she had done after coming back from the trip. She had been talking to Emily like usual, but I could tell she was really enjoying herself now that she felt open. Chrissy admitted that she was a little jealous. Emily had been with several men, and Chrissy found herself living vicariously through her. When Emily began the affair with Mike, Chrissy saw what she was missing and became even more jealous. For the record, I knew Mike had a reputation back in college for being a ladies' man, and honestly, he was the best looking of the three of us. He had stayed in good shape as he got older, and even after his divorce, he was still looking good. Chrissy said when the threesome idea was proposed, she really tried to resist. But as the weeks went on, she found herself thinking about it more and more. She told me she caved because Mike was really good at what he did. She had never had a threesome and thought she could get away with it. She asked me how I found out, and I told her it wasn't important. I then asked why she didn't come home right after she knew I was onto her. She said, "We were just going to do this." I knew this was coming. What difference does it make if I stayed and finished what I started or ran home right away? The outcome would be the same. I asked if there was anything else she wanted to tell me. She said no. She just wanted a chance to earn back my trust, to be forgiven, and to reconcile. I said, "No, I don't want this anymore. I'm hurt, betrayed, and can't even stand to look at you." I was planning on filing for divorce first thing tomorrow. Update 3, when I woke up the next morning, Chrissy was still home. She typically would have already left for work, but she had taken the day off, probably thinking I would do the same. Once Cora was off to school, Chrissy started her love bombing routine again. I told her I didn't care. I had seen it all before. She then made one last proposal. She offered to give me all access to her things, all the time. She said she would go to marriage counseling, see a therapist on her own, cut off Emily permanently, and be an open book for any questions I had. I told her that those were just the things you do when you're trying to reconcile, but I didn't want to be a warden at home, and I didn't want to reconcile. She begged, asking me to just wait 1 week. If by next Monday, I still felt the same, she would sign the divorce papers with no contest. I agreed to give it 1 week. She continued to love bomb, constantly trying to initiate sex. I turned down every attempt. By Thursday, I told her I was still unmoved, and I still planned to file on Monday. That Friday, I could tell she had something planned, but at that point, I really didn't care. I was counting down the hours until I could be done with her. The love bombing wasn't working anymore, and it was starting to annoy me. She said she thought we couldn't move on because of the imbalance her infidelity had caused. I wasn't sure if I was reading it right, but it sounded like she was implying what I thought she was. Chrissy said, "We should have a threesome." I told her, "You did more than that." She said, "Okay, and you can have a week off from marriage." I pointed out that was useless. She said, as a woman, she could go out and find a guy to have sex with any time she wanted. I replied, "I'm a guy, and unless you're a rich or famous guy, you're not picking up women that easily. There's no point in me sitting in bars for a week or using dating apps if I'm not getting matches." She said, "Okay, you can have 10 hall passes that never expire. You can use them for the same woman or 10 different women." I replied, "You think that's not going to affect our sex life? You think you're going to be okay with that?" Because I doubt it. She said she would make sure it didn't suffer, she would do everything to be available for my needs, and we could do anything I wanted. I told her I needed time to think about it. Looking back, I realized that what I did next was pretty sleazy. I should have just walked away and started fresh, but I didn't. I convinced myself that why not? Here was the chance to have a threesome, and any other fantasy I wanted. I could use those hall passes to find someone else to move on with, and when it was all over, I'd still divorce her. She had wronged me, and in my mind, taking advantage of this opportunity was justified. I agreed, but told her that the threesome needed to happen soon. I gave her a deadline, she had to have someone lined up by February 1st, or I was out. If she couldn't make it happen by then, I would know she wasn't really trying, just stalling for time. Update 4, by mid-February, I finally took the first step in using my hall passes. I'd met Sabrina, a 27-year-old restaurant manager who worked near my office. I'd been to the restaurant often enough to notice she was a little flirty with me. I decided to ask her out, but I lied about my situation. I told her I was 2 months into the divorce process, and while we were still living in the same house, I had moved into the basement. Another lie, of course. Sabrina hesitated but agreed to go out with me. Later on, I asked her what made her agree, knowing I was in the middle of a divorce. She told me that she noticed I wasn't wearing my wedding ring the first time I came in. I had taken it off on the day it all went down, and by the time I asked her out, my tan line was fading, so she could tell I wasn't just taking it off to meet women, I wasn't wearing it at all anymore. Not long after that, the COVID shutdown hit. I felt trapped, but I used it as an excuse to avoid marriage counseling. Chrissy had been pushing for it, but I told her I wouldn't go until after the threesome. Then, I said I wouldn't go until I'd gone on a date, and as soon as that happened, the shutdown started. By April, I'd seen Sabrina 7 times. We went on 2 real dates, which really hurt Chrissy before the shutdowns. Once those started, I started going over to Sabrina's place, as she lived alone. Our relationship became physical pretty quickly. At that point, I was done pretending like I was trying to reconcile with Chrissy. I think I'd hurt her enough. She'd hurt me too. Honestly, I still feel guilty for what I did with Sabrina, but I just couldn't keep up the facade. When I finally told Chrissy that I was done and still planned to divorce her, she didn't fight me. She looked defeated. She seemed broken. I moved out and found a small 2-bedroom house, leaving Chrissy in our family home. The one thing I can be proud of in this whole mess is that I sat down with Cora and told her the truth. I explained everything to her, the affair, the cheating, my mistakes, Chrissy's mistakes. I wanted her to understand that both of us had wronged each other. We both loved her, but we had both messed up in ways we couldn't undo. Cora and I agreed on a 50-50 custody arrangement, so she'd alternate living with both of us each week. It took until January of 2021 for the divorce to be finalized. I stayed involved with Sabrina the entire time. Cora and Sabrina got along just fine. I was happy. Cora didn't see her as the other woman and didn't really treat her like a stepmom either. They just got along like friends. Sabrina and I ended things in January of this year. I realized that I don't want to get married again or have more kids. Chrissy had done some sporadic dating over the years. One guy she dated for about 11 months, but things got weird after that. As far as co-parenting goes, Chrissy and I have done pretty well. We both just wanted to be there for our daughter. We've been civil and friendly for her sake. Then came Cora's high school graduation this past May. Chrissy and I ended up sitting together. What should have been an awkward situation turned out to be surprisingly comfortable. We started joking around, chatting, and even got a little flirtatious. It felt like old times, and it was refreshing. A week later, I was still thinking about how much fun I had at the graduation. I decided to call Chrissy and ask her out. She immediately shot me down and said, "Absolutely not." I felt embarrassed, but it passed quickly. After a long pause, she added, "Unless we go to marriage counseling." I agreed, and we had our first session on a Thursday and a second first date the following Friday. We've been doing counseling ever since. We found a counselor who specializes in ethical non-monogamy because that's something both of us want to explore. It's been 6 months now, and we've started talking about me moving back into our family home. Cora can't believe we're getting back together and says it's weird. When she came back from her first semester at college last week, she told me she wasn't sure if she was happy or concerned, but that she didn't want to hear any details about what Chrissy and I were doing. As for Eric, he divorced Emily and pretty much ran away. He transferred for work and now lives 4 states away. Mike and Emily tried to make their relationship work for a while after Emily's divorce, but Chrissy got back in touch with Emily and found out that the only thing they had in common was sex. So, their relationship fizzled out quickly. Emily remarried a guy who used to work with Eric. He got promoted to regional manager and moved with him. Now, he's Eric's direct boss and has been blocking Eric's transfer requests. It's pretty ironic, but also hilarious to me. Mike, whom I now refer to as Mother Ear Mike, is still around, still single. I wish him nothing but the worst. That's my story, though. Maybe one day, I'll have a happy ending to share, but only time will tell. P.S. Chrissy paid Tiffany $250 for the threesome. Happy holidays.